At our family reunion, my dad announced, "We voted, you'll pay off my debt, or you're out of this family." They toasted and clapped. I smiled, took out a USB stick, and plugged it into the TV. "Here's my vote," I said. As the video played, their faces went pale, and one by one, My dad stood up, raised his glass, and said, "We voted. You'll pay off my debt, or you're out of this family." Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I blinked. Thought I misheard him. "What?" I asked, looking around the room. But they were already clapping. My sister gave me this fake smile, the kind she always wore when she knew she'd want something. "Come on, don't make that face," she said, sipping her wine. "It's not that big of a deal." "It's a family decision," my aunt added with a nod, as if that made it reasonable. My mother didn't even look up from her plate when she said, "You're the only one who can help. And frankly, it's time you did something real for once." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp and hollow. "Something real?" I said. "You mean other than the years of?" I stopped myself. "Not now. Not like this." I looked at my father, expecting maybe a smirk, maybe shame. But he was calm, cold. "You've always had the resources," he said flatly. "We're just asking you to use them for something that matters." My cousin leaned back in his chair. "It's not like we're asking you to die or something. Just be useful for once." Useful? That word stuck. I looked around the table. They were all in on it. And not one of them looked uncomfortable. Not even Kelly, who had once cried on my shoulder because her husband, my brother, blew their savings on crypto and she didn't know how to pay rent. Now she just looked at me like I owed them something. "Wow," I said quietly. "This really is happening." My brother Jacob raised his glass. "It's nothing personal, man. It's just what families do." "No," I said. "It's what this family does." The room fell quiet for half a second. Then my mom scoffed. "Stop acting like a victim." I pushed my chair back slowly. "I'm just trying to understand. You all sat around and voted behind my back that I should clean up someone else's mess?" My sister grinned. "It's not behind your back if we're telling you now." My dad chuckled. I stood there, taking it all in. The plates, the wine, the clinking glasses, the stupid little name cards my cousin made for the family reunion. They'd made it look like a celebration. Like I should feel honored. But I didn't feel honored. I felt used. And worse, I realized this wasn't new. This was just the first time they'd stopped pretending. I looked at my brother, still smiling like this was all hilarious. "You guys really think I'll go along with this?" I asked. He shrugged. "We know you will. You always do." I didn't respond. Just reached into my jacket pocket and held up the small black USB drive. "Then I guess it's time I showed you what I brought." My sister's smile faltered. "What is that?" she asked. I walked slowly toward the TV in the corner of the room and plugged it in. "You called it a vote. Well, here's mine." And while that video loaded, frame by frame, lie by lie, I couldn't help but think how we even got here because it didn't start with a vote. It started with a phone call at 2 a.m. It started with guilt wrapped in a smile and a family that knew exactly how to make me fold. "Hey, sorry to call this late," my dad had said, voice heavy with fake guilt. "But your mom and I are in a bit of a bind." They always were. That time, it was the mortgage. Before that, it was car trouble. Then the water heater. The electric bill. My sister's tuition. My brother's failed business. My cousin's mental health retreat in Arizona. Every month, there was a new emergency. And every time, I paid. Because that's what I was trained to do. "You're the only one who's stable," they'd say. "You're good with money. You're not married. You don't have kids. You can afford to help." And when I hesitated, "You think we didn't sacrifice for you? You wouldn't even have this life if it weren't for us. You're so selfish." I used to believe them. I used to thank them for the guilt. The real problem started when I stopped being invisible. I got promoted, bought a condo, upgraded my car. Nothing flashy, just basic things for a 30 who'd been grinding for a decade. That's when they started talking behind my back. "You see the car he's driving now?" My cousin David had said at Thanksgiving. You'd think he was a drug dealer. My sister, it's funny how he suddenly can't help with mom's meds, but he's got a 65-inch TV. Even my mother, he's drifting, acting like he's better than the rest of us. I only found out because my coworker Amber overheard my uncle talking trash at a bar. My uncle, the one I once bailed out of DUI court fees. It all boiled over 6 weeks before the reunion. My brother Jacob called me out of the blue. He was unusually cheerful. "I have a favor to ask," he said. I didn't answer right away. He noticed. "Oh, come on. It's not a big deal." He laughed. "It's just $22,000. I almost dropped my phone. "For what?" "Dad's debt," he said casually, like he was ordering pizza. "The one from the loan he co-signed for Uncle Mark. It's ballooning. We figured you'd cover it." "We figured." "Yeah," he said. "Me, Mom, Dad, Liz, Dave, we talked without me." "You're always so hard to pin down," he said with a sigh, like I was being difficult. "But we knew you'd be logical about it." I didn't yell. I didn't hang up. I just said, "No." There was a pause, then laughter. "Come on, man. Don't be dramatic. It's just money." "Then pay it yourself," I said. "I have kids," he snapped. "You don't." Click. I didn't know it then, but that's when they started planning the vote. 2 days later, I got a text from my mom. "We need to talk. Family matters." Then one from my sister. "Everyone's meeting next month. No excuses. You'll be there." They never asked. They summoned. At first, I thought maybe it would be another guilt session. Maybe another plea. I didn't expect it to be a declaration of duty, but I should have because that's what I was to them, obligation in human form. The weeks leading up to the reunion were a blur of rehearsed smiles and boiling rage. My mother called to check in. "How's the job?" she asked sweetly. "Busy," I said. "Still working in that office downtown?" "The one near the bank." I could practically hear her calculating. My sister called next. "I was thinking, since you're doing so well, maybe you could take Mom and Dad on a cruise next year. They deserve it." "I'm sure they do." Silence. "Then you're not still mad about that Christmas thing, are you?" She was referring to the year I bought her daughter a laptop, and she told everyone I was trying to buy affection. The same year she gifted me a mug that said, "Least festive family member." The last straw came the night before the reunion. I was out grabbing groceries when I ran into my cousin Dave at the gas station. He didn't see me, but I saw him leaning against his car, laughing with another cousin, waving around a cigar and bragging. "Yeah. We're hitting him with the full thing tomorrow. If he doesn't pay up, he's out." My stomach turned. "You think he'll do it?" the other cousin asked. "Please," Dave snorted. "He always folds. Just gotta pressure him in front of everyone. Make him feel like it's tradition or something." They laughed. I turned, walked back to my car, and sat there in silence for 15 minutes. Then I started making calls to people who owed me favors, to people who knew things, and to someone who helped me pull some very specific footage from a few years back. That USB stick wasn't just for show. It was a fuse. And tomorrow, I was going to light it. The room went still. I plugged in the USB, walked back to my seat, and crossed my arms. No words. Just silence in the software of the TV turning on. "Seriously?" my sister said with a scoff. "What is this? A presentation?" I didn't answer. My dad shifted in his chair. My mom frowned like I'd brought a loaded gun to dinner. In a way, I had. The screen lit up. Video file, finalreunion.mp for playing. First frame, dimly lit footage from a parking garage. My father's car and him climbing out in the middle of the night, pacing, pulling a crumpled bedding slip from his coat pocket. Then a voice. His voice, just one more. "If I win this, I can cover last week's loss." Gasps around the room. Next, footage from the casino floor. My father hunched over a blackjack table, chips flying, slamming his fist down, security walking over. Then a bank statement, withdrawals, same day, same time, $4,000, $3,500, $2,200. Finally, a photo timestamp showing my dad handing cash to a man outside a bar, a known loan shark. I done my homework. I paused the video. Silence. No one moved. No one spoke. I turned to my mother first. Still think this is about medical debt? She looked like she was going to be sick. Where did you get that? My father asked, voice hoarse. Oh, it's not just me, I said. Uncle Rob knew. Dave knew. I think even Jacob knew. But no one said a word. You just waited until I showed up so you could dump it all on me. Again, Jacob looked away. You're twisting this. My mom finally snapped. Your father has a problem. He needs help. I laughed sharp, bitter. No. What he needs is accountability. What you all need is someone to blame and fund. My dad slammed his hand on the table. You think you're better than us now. Is that it? I think I'm done being your bank account. I can't believe how ungrateful you are, he said sharply. No. I cut him off. Ungrateful is lying to your entire family about a medical crisis when you've been bleeding money into poker tables for years. Ungrateful is staging a family reunion just to stage an ambush. My sister stood up furious. Why are you doing this? You're humiliating him. I'm humiliating him? I turned toward her. What about all the times you sat in my apartment crying over your maxed out cards, and I paid them off? What about the time you said, you're the only good one in this family? That was right before you stole my credit to get your car refinanced. Remember that? Her mouth opened, then shut. You're trying to break this family apart, my mother said. No, I said calmly. You already did that. When you decided it was okay to use one of your own like an ATM with a heartbeat, my cousin Dave stood up. This is ridiculous. So what? He has a few gambling issues. That's still your dad. Then you cover his debt, I snapped. Dave froze. Exactly. You all voted to dump this on me, I said. Well, I vote no. I vote no. Jacob finally spoke up, tone low. If you leave now, don't bother coming back. I met his eyes. Then consider me gone. My father stood. Last chance. You wire the money this week, and we'll forget this circus ever happened. Funny, I said, grabbing my coat. That's exactly what I want. He stepped forward like he was going to stop me, but something in my face must have warned him off. I walked to the door. As I reached for the handle, my mother said, if you leave, don't come back. I turned back one last time. I wasn't planning to. And then I walked out, not stormed, not ran, walked with my head high. For the first time in my entire life, I didn't expect it to be so quiet. I thought there'd be rage, screaming, dozens of calls, texts, guilt trips, but there was nothing. No messages. No, we need to talk. Just silence. And strangely, I liked it. For the first time in years, I woke up without a dull pressure in my chest. No shame. No invisible weight of someone else's problems on my back. I went to work. I hit the gym. I had quiet dinners without dramatic phone calls. I even picked up my sketchbook again, something I hadn't touched in nearly a decade. It felt like I was finally breathing again, but I knew my family wouldn't let it go that easily. It happened in the third week. I was walking home with a coffee when I saw a figure standing outside my building. Familiar posture, stiff shoulders, red eyes. It was my mother. She was holding a container of food like it was an offering. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I didn't say anything. Just unlock the door. We sat in my kitchen. She placed the pie on the table like it could erase what happened. Like homemade crust could cure betrayal. You need to know, she said, barely above a whisper. Your father, he's in the hospital. I didn't flinch. He had a heart attack. Last night, he's in the ICU. Pause. Right after the bank filed a lawsuit for the unpaid loans. Still, I said nothing. She twisted her hands in her lap. I didn't come to ask for money. That made me look up. She pulled a yellowed envelope from her bag. I found something in the pantry. It's for you. She placed it on the table and stood. He wrote it when everything started falling apart. He never meant to give it to you, but he kept it. She left without waiting for me to read it. On the front of the envelope, in my father's handwriting. If I ever lose myself completely, Give this to him. Only him. My hand shook as I opened it. Son, I know everyone sees me as strong. That's the version I've always performed, but it wasn't strength. It was illness. Gambling ate me alive, and I pulled everyone in with me. The worst part? You. You were the only one who never asked and the only one I asked endlessly. I didn't just lose money. I lost my dignity. And the most valuable thing, you. If you're reading this, then everything's collapsed. I understand if you never forgive me. But please know this, it was my fault, not yours. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I needed you to hear me say it just once. Dad, I read it 3 times. Each time, something broke inside me. It wasn't manipulative. It wasn't, I'm sick, forgive me, and wire me money. It was failure, raw, real, and finally honest. For the first time in my life, he wasn't talking at me. He was talking to me. The next day, I went to the hospital. He was pale, sunken into the bed, hooked to wires and beeping machines. My mother sat beside him, silent. She nodded when I walked in but didn't speak. He opened his eyes and saw me. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just cried. I stood there, not knowing what to say. But for the first time, it wasn't anger I felt. It was emptiness. I got the letter, I said. He nodded. Thank you. Not for the words, for the truth. We sat in silence. Then I said, but I'm not coming back. I'm not going to help. I just want to move on. And he didn't argue. He just nodded again. And for the first time in his life, he didn't ask for anything. As I walked out of the room, I nearly collided with Dave, my cousin. He looked awful, unshaven, eyes bloodshot. Heard you came, he mumbled. Listen. I've been so awful person, true. He nodded, not even offended. I brought something too. I wasn't going to, but you should see this. He handed me his phone. It was a grainy video from a casino surveillance feed. My father was at a table. Standing beside him was Dave. And Dave was handing him cash. I turned to him slowly. You gave him money? Dave's face went pale. It was a setup. A scheme. I used Uncle Rick's name, washed money through his gambling. He'd lose it, and it came back to me legit. Everyone thought he was drowning, but it was all part of it. I don't remember walking home. I don't remember unlocking the door, but I remember the way my hands shook. The story was a lie. My father wasn't just a sick gambler. He was covering for Dave. The entire family knew the vote wasn't about helping my father. It was about protecting Dave. That night, I got a message from Dave's wife. I found out everything. I'm filing for divorce, but I wanted to say thank you. You were the only one brave enough to pull the curtain down. The rest of us were too afraid, and that's when I understood. This wasn't a collapse. It was a cleansing. I hadn't just walked away. I'd ripped the rot out from under the surface. And now, finally, I could build something real on my own with nothing but the truth beneath me. 3 months. That's how long it's been since the day I walked out. No calls. No texts. No sudden knocks at my door. Not even a guilt-soaked happy birthday, nothing. And it was beautiful. For the first time in my life, silence felt like freedom. I could breathe. I could sleep. I could exist without calculating who I was disappointing this week. And for a while, that was enough until last night, until the knock came. It was late past midnight. I wasn't expecting anyone. I thought maybe a neighbor or a delivery to the wrong door. I opened it and there stood Emily, my sister. Hair a mess. Mascara smudged. Eyes bloodshot like she hadn't slept in days. I didn't say anything. She stepped inside without asking like she used to when we were kids. Only this time, there was no smugness, no practiced superiority. She looked broken. I didn't know where else to go, she said, voice barely there. They cut me off. I leaned against the counter. Who did? Everyone? She dropped her bag on the floor and slumped into a chair. Dave's divorce went public, she said. Brian took the kids and left. He sent screenshots of all my texts to Mom. The ones where I joked about how you'd probably crawl back eventually. I didn't flinch. Dad's under investigation, she added. Apparently, some of those gambling accounts were opened under Grandma's name. That hit different. Grandma had dementia the last 5 years of her life. Barely knew what year it was. They used her too. I looked at Emily. She wasn't crying. She was empty. Like someone who just found out the world she built her ego on was made of wet cardboard. I'm not here for money, she said quickly. I know better now. I raised an eyebrow. I came because I wanted to tell you something. Silence. You were right, she whispered. We were awful to you. I was awful to you. I crossed my arms. She stared at the floor. You know the day we voted? The big reunion? I already knew Dad's debt wasn't just from betting. I knew about Dave. I just didn't care. That cut deeper than anything. I told myself it was easier to let you carry it, she continued. You always did. Why not one more time? She finally looked up at me. But when you didn't, when you stood there and said, no, I hated you for it. I nodded slowly. And now? Her voice cracked. Now I envy you. She stayed for an hour, maybe more. Didn't ask to crash on the couch. Didn't pretend we'd start over. She left quietly, and I stood there in the kitchen alone again, but it didn't feel like loneliness anymore. It felt like something else, like closure, like justice. The next morning, I checked my email. There was a message from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Brian, subject, thank you. I never said it before, but I wanted to now. Thank you. Not just for exposing what you did, but for surviving them. I used to think there was no escape, that I just had to smile and take it. Watching you walk away? It gave me permission to do the same. I've got full custody now. The kids are thriving. I tell them about you sometimes. About the uncle who never gave up on himself. They want to meet you when you're ready. Take your time. We'll be here. I read it 3 times. And each time, I smiled. Because in a house that once felt like a prison, I'd lit the match. And from that fire, someone else found a way out too. Last week, I packed up the last of my things. Moved across the state. New apartment, new number, fresh air, real boundaries. No more family dinners laced with manipulation. No more fake check-ins that led to Venmo requests. No more feeling like a paycheck in a person's skin. I started sketching again. Got a studio space. I'm opening a small show next month. First piece I finished, a matchstick on black canvas. One word underneath. Enough. Because that's the truth they never expected me to learn. That love without respect is nothing. That family without trust is poison. And that saying no isn't selfish. It's revolution.